Thanks for tuning in live to Proline TV, the Our Lads Football Network. I'm your host, Greg DePalma. We're talking Chicago Bears. On our show today, we are interviewing the one and only Mark Carman from CHGO Sports. Of course, that's who we're talking to because we're talking about the Bears. How's it going, Mark?
Greg, it's going great. Appreciate you having me as always. Thank you.
It's always our pleasure and privilege to have you on. You do such a great job informing us of what's going on with Chicago there, covering the team for as good as you have done for quite some time now. And tell us a little bit about the atmosphere in Chicago. It must be buzzing ever since they hired the coach. We talked about that in our last conversation. And then, a draft and a free agency period, which was very important.
Yeah, we definitely are in the trust in Ben Johnson circle here, Greg. This is a new energy at OTAs. Ben Johnson stopping practice, screaming at players, do it again, huddle up, going at guys who seemingly never do anything wrong, like Cole Kmet, who he called out one day. And, Cole took it in great stride that, this is just sort of the way things are nowadays. And there's going to be sort of a new level of accountability, if you will. And, year two of Caleb Williams incoming here. They've first two draft picks haven't been on the field much. Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan, dealing with the shoulder injury, so he hasn't been able to practice. And then Luther Burden, wide receiver from Missouri, soft tissue injury. He missed a bunch of time at OTAs, but a lot of emphasis on the offense early in the draft, and that big offseason adding onto the offensive line. So we'll see if it can all click here in year one of Ben Johnson. Seems, not easy to do. And he's already said that, look, don't expect us to be a finished product week one. But he also does, I think, expect them to get pretty far this year as well.
Yeah, we did an early NFC North look going over all the odds, division odds, Super Bowl odds, even week one odds, and noticed that for a division with four teams to have their fourth team, which were the Bears, at I think they're about 35-1 to win the Super Bowl. Just shows you how tough the division is going to be. And yet I know, like you said, it's probably asking way too much to be thinking about something like the Super Bowl. But it just shows you where the franchise has at least come in just one offseason as far as the way the national media and the way Vegas takes everything that has gone on here personnel-wise. And really, most of it's on offense. And again, I think this is what I've talked about whenever I've analyzed what this team has done. It just seems like they've done so well offensively to give Caleb everything he needs to succeed. The defense, it looks like there are definitely some holes that need to be filled, but you can't get everything done in one offseason.
Yeah, and they've tried, though. Even on the defensive line, they made a significant investment in Dio Odengbo, paying him $16 million a year for a couple of years to come over from the Colts to be an edge rusher, pair with Montez Sweat. They went out and they signed Grady Jarrett to be in the interior, gave him $22.5 million over 3 years. So these are significant investments, not top of the market, but certainly not nothing for a 31-year-old who the Falcons, decided to move on from. A lot of that was salary cap issues. But so, look, they have addressed it to a point. They're a little thin at linebacker defensively. You're relying on, Ruben Hippolyte, who was an unexpected mid-round pick.
Yeah.
He has a great chance to, be that Sam linebacker and be out there 20-25% of the time. There's not Noah Sewell has barely played when he's been here. They let Jack Sanborn walk. I don't know why they did that, or I do know why they did that. It's because he doesn't have the speed that they like at the position. But Sanborn was a good player here, and now he's in Dallas, pairing back up with Matt Eberflus as the DC in Dallas. Flus saw enough of him to bring him down there, but that's just a small part of the roster, right? You still have Tremaine Edmonds, and you still have TJ Edwards, so it's not super weak. And the secondary hopefully will be a strong point again. But that's so the defense. There wasn't as much focus. Long-winded answer here, Greg. But they didn't complete and neglect it either. In fact, they paid some decent attention to it at times.
Yeah, it's just that I guess all the flashier moves were on offense because that's where they needed the moves to be, especially along the offensive line. And then throw in the fact that not only do they add 3 veterans on the line, then they go out and they draft a couple of kids too, including a second rounder. So it's really impressive what they've been able to accomplish this offseason. Of course, you don't win during the regular season, for win in the offseason. We know that, but it still gives Bears fans a lot of hope. And I'm sure that's why everybody's excited. It's interesting because when we talked last, we were going over the key needs for this team. We've been around free agency and before the draft. And it looks like most of what we talked about, most of what you pointed out as far as what the team was going to need to improve upon as far as the needs were concerned have been taken. Center, guard, check, veterans. The edge, you just talked about Dio. By the way, do you think with the Dio move, and it was one big move, but do you think that that's enough? Do you think that the Bears, because anytime you have a 4-3 defense, you really need to have at least 3 good pass rushers. Do you think they have 3 good pass rushers?
I do not. You want to be optimistic about what Dio can do. Certainly the Bears are. They made the investment, but he's certainly not proven as far as getting to the quarterback consistently. It's also been interesting just watching in OTAs. You've had Dominic Robinson, who you got him on your 3rd string here. He was getting a lot of first-team reps, and Ben Johnson talked about him as somebody that surprised. But Dom Rob looks phenomenal in shorts, and physically he's very impressive. And I love Dom Rob; he's a great dude. I'm rooting for him, but he hasn't done it yet as far as producing. So I still think they're figuring out who is going to be the guy opposite Montez. And Montez had a bad year last year; it was not healthy, and he's been at OTAs earlier than he normally would be because of his down year last year. So it's a fair skepticism point, if you will, on the roster. And I would answer no.
Okay.
That they do not have enough.
And then the other position was safety, but not this year. You just felt that with Brisker becoming a free agent, that they might want to get ahead of that. And apparently that's not what they've done at this point. Now, there's still some defensive backs that are available in free agency. So anything could happen. Were you surprised is that like maybe the only position besides maybe adding some more depth at edge that you thought maybe they were going to do?
Well, it was kind of confusing how they would go about dealing with having a left tackle in Braxton Jones, who's coming off significant ankle surgery, and they've got Karan Amagaji as a 3rd-round draft pick last year, and then they picked Ozzie Trapillo in the 2nd round this year. And Trapillo's a big guy, comes out of Boston College. He gets high marks for his intelligence, but they don't have anybody proven at left tackle. So I think that position ultimately will go to Braxton in his 4th year if he can get healthy, who's been a nice 5th-round pick that has, overachieved from where you would thought he would be. Okay. But he's also not, he's far from dominant. So that spot, it was just tricky. And you do wonder if Braxton can't get healthy, then, you're asking the number 56 overall pick in the draft to step in as a rookie and be a starting left tackle, and or Karan Amagaji, who played very infrequently last year, basically a redshirt year for him, coming off a calf injury out of Yale. So it's that if we're looking at positions where they didn't necessarily completely solidify it in question marks, I would put left tackle over the safety position.
Got it. Okay. Let's go through these draft picks. So how surprised were you when they went tight end that they went with Loveland or Warren? Was this expected?
It was not. And I was dumbfounded, not completely dumbfounded, because there was some Colston Loveland rumors. But Tyler Warren was the higher rated tight end, although, a lot of people said, pick your flavor, and that's fine. And the Bears clearly did that. But I would have, if they were picking a tight end, I would have bet on Warren. I actually did predict that day that they would take Tyler Warren in our draft prognostications. But it was kind of felt like a flyer at the time, Greg. I didn't really actually believe myself though. I'm like, because but I thought it was too boring to say that they would pick an offensive lineman. But I think if Kelvin Banks, who went right in front of him, was there, that probably would have been the pick and not Loveland. So I think they intended on taking Banks, but since Banks wasn't there and Ben Johnson had fallen in love with Loveland, they chose that path as they had him graded over Warren. But I was pretty surprised by it overall.
Did they have that question asked specifically regarding the difference of why they preferred Loveland over Warren?
Yeah, they did, and their answer was like, look, we think that Tyler's going to be a great player too, but we just thought that Loveland fits better for what they do.
Okay.
So I think maybe, Ben Johnson said he saw a lot of Sam Laporta in him. So Laporta has been pretty successful up in Detroit. He didn't have a huge year last year, but pretty damn successful. So I think that's kind of the vision somewhat for what Colston can be with the Bears.
That's pretty much what I said. When all I said was, look, hey, I'm just going to guess that it's a better fit for their offense. Because, look, I'm not the coach. They are. They know what is a better fit for them. We all feel Warren's a better player, even though, like you said, it was pretty close. But, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Burden. This had to be – this one really had to excite Bears fans to be able to get Burden in round 2.
Yeah, 38 overall. And, this was a Bears moment where they thought they got a steal. What was interesting to me most about the Burden pick, Greg, was, there were some question marks about, how he was handling himself and his mom being involved in his business and just different stuff, which is why he dropped. Okay. And the Bears have been very character priority in their draft picks. And I'm not, I don't want to, make it out like Luther's got bad character, but he wasn't like, the perfect guy when it came to that. And so it felt like almost the Bears were making a pivot to, we are taking the most talented guy on the board versus, you've got to check off that box too. I mean, the Bears could have drafted Jalen Carter to be their nose tackle, which they needed the year before, and they passed on that for Darnell Wright and a 4th-round pick. And a lot of people thought that was, it was characteristics for Jalen Carter. Well, if you go back and do that, you're taking Jalen Carter. The guy's been wrecking football games basically since he got in the league.
Yeah.
But so this just felt like a little bit of a pivot with Luther.
No, I mean, look, if you have a lot of character guys in your locker room, there's nothing wrong with adding 1 or 2 that may not fit that, because you have so many good character guys that should be able to elevate that player. Yeah,
if you're the coaching staff that can handle that.
Yeah.
But the Bears added one player like that before in Chase Claypool, and he was an absolute nightmare in that locker room.
Yeah.
So that was just one guy in a locker room of good dudes, and it was not easy to manage him. I mean, so even if we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how first of all, Luther's got to get healthy, and then there's a lot of guys who want the football in the Bears. DJ Moore wants the ball. Roma Dunze is going into his 2nd year. Colston Loveland's a rookie tight end. Cole Kmet's been here. How many touches is Luther going to get, and will he I don't know, find his way and quietly onto whatever his role is on the team? It'll be interesting to watch.
Well, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Okay, let's stick with skill position players. We see a big R back there. You know where I'm going here. So I've already told people, and I feel pretty confident about this. I know maybe a little stretch as a rookie, but I think Monangai 2026 will be the starting running back of the Bears. I love the kid. I think he was. This has happened to him at every level. It happened to him going into college. He didn't have this, that, or the other thing, and all he did was lead the Big Ten in rushing and be the most productive running back the last 2 years. And that kid is a really good player. and I think that's a running back. That's a backfield that I think has some potential openings if Monangai steps up.
Well, he does a lot of things that the Bears need. One, he's good at getting some tough yards, which is not necessarily the forte of DeAndre Swift. He is good in pass protection as well.
Oh, he's awesome in pass protection.
Yeah. So that's a big feather in his cap for that would allow him to get on the field, because Caleb does need that extra protection, or any quarterback does. So 68 sacks last year. Let's get some more help out there. You gotta love the attitude. The only thing that sort of scares me about, not sort of, but that's the reason why he was a 7th round draft pick, is he doesn't have that breakaway speed, and I think he had 3 carries that were of more than 40 yards in his college career. Like he's not a home run threat.
No, he's not.
So it's kind of a niche back here, but someone who's not going to hurt you. And look, I'm rooting for him just like you are, Greg. It sounds like there's a lot of things that are impressive about him. His background is is interesting. His brother played in the NFL. His parents, immigrating to the U.S. and raising 2 amazing kids and all the things. So I think you could absolutely be proven right that Kyle Monangai, if he can step in there and be productive, he's very well could be the starter next year for the Bears at running back.
Yeah, and also it's one of those deals where, hey, he's a 7th round draft pick, so why not? Okay, the 2 linemen you've already talked about. Trapio from Boston College, Luke Newman. This was another one of those little bit of a surprise pick. I mean, the 6th round, anybody can pick anybody once you get to the 6th round. But did they specifically say what they liked about Newman? Because I think we pretty much have an idea of why they liked Ozzie, and we kind of went over that already. But what about Newman?
Well, with Newman, it's his versatility. They feel he can play both guard spots and center. So you look at his tape at Michigan State, and you see a lot of good things, but mainly the versatility is what got him selected. And look, the Bears have been looking for a center for a long time now. They've made a big time investment in Drew Dahlman, so it feels a whole lot more comfortable. But just being able to have somebody on the interior that can do that in a pinch if necessary, I think that's at least one of the big reasons why they wanted to, were willing at least to spend one of their draft picks on Luke Newman. And played at Michigan State, played against tough competition, held his own. So there's plenty to like there.
Would you still have? We have Kramer as the backup, and I know he's a veteran compared to Newman. Both guys 6th round draft picks. Would you have Kramer as do they have him as the number 2 behind Dahlman right now?
To be honest, I'm not sure.
Okay. That's not out of whack then to have Kramer potentially.
No, it's not. It's
okay.
not. I think all that stuff will be decided won't be decided until training camp. Ben. One thing that's impressed me about Ben right now is that he's willing to give direct answers, which is unlike some Bears coaches in the past. And you can't tell a whole lot with offensive linemen until they put the pads on. And he's also said they don't have any depth chart, which of course they do. Caleb Williams is going to be your number 1 quarterback, and DeAndre Swift is going to be your number 1 running back. But as far as things like Luke Newman and Doug Kramer, I don't think they have a depth chart there. I think they are figuring that out.
Okay, let's go to the defensive side. And we talked about the kid from Maryland, the linebacker, Shamar Turner. So they pick him up in the 2nd round. Seems to be an energy type player. I'm not sure what his role is going to be. He can fit in a few different spots. Did they specifically say what they liked about him?
Well, I think they like his nastiness, which Shamar Turner got kicked out of a game for grabbing somebody's junk, and he's willing to kind of push the envelope here, which is another thing. Like the Bears, they would not have picked. I don't think they would have picked a Shamar Turner last couple of years, but they're picking him now, and I think that's definitely a Ben Johnson influence. I mean, he's got some physical ailments that make you wonder if he's going to be able to stay healthy, but I think this is a high ceiling guy in their mind. Somebody who they think if you look at that rotation in the middle, you've got Turner, you've got Trevon Dexter Sr. going in his third year, who's looks absolutely enormous right now. So, and then you're also dealing with Grady Jarrett as a veteran in the middle there, and Andrew Billings had a great year last year until he got hurt. So that's 4 interchangeable parts in the interior. Nothing super sexy per se, but maybe they can be pretty effective.
And Frazier, the Texas San Antonio corner, there's some nice things to like about him. His 4.3 speed. He seems to also be somebody that has really good ball skills. He is going to turn 25 as a rookie, and I wonder whether or not that's a reason he lasted where he did. But it still wasn't like it was a really, it wasn't like he was a 6th or 7th round guy. So what do you think about Frazier? Frazier seems like a guy when you're going to be 25 years old and you have a lot of experience in college. You're probably going to have a leg up on some of the other rookies, and you might be able to play a lot sooner.
Yeah, he's interesting in the ball skills, but I mean, this is a guy who's been a backup most of his career in college. The Bears like his size, and this is a developmental play. I think a practice squad candidate. He's super thin, Greg, like rail thin. So, like, you're going to come up and hit somebody? I can't even imagine. I feel like you're going to break in half. And he also got dinged up at minicamp and hasn't been on the field.
Big surprise.
Right. But so I do think they like his size. They like his ball skills. And, taking a swing at somebody who's, if he could hit, has perhaps the ability to, I don't know. I don't want to go too tall here, but be an impact player if with his size and skill set that, if he actually gets playing time and learns the game that he could, be somebody at that pick in the 5th round would be an absolute steal.
Where do you think that taking a look with the draft and a lot of free agency over, is there a position on the team that you still feel has some depth issues?
Well, you kind of wonder, would they add a veteran back in behind DeAndre Swift, or are they going to leave that to Carman and Roschon Johnson? Nick Chubb apparently is going to be off the board, but that was a name that Bears fans were wondering if they were going to do, but they didn't. So I guess they believe in Roschon and they believe in Monangai, perhaps for the reasons that we were just talking about. So that was one spot. Could they add a veteran safety as insurance for Jaquan Brisker, who dealt with a major concussion and missed, the great portion of last year, got hurt early and didn't play again. Maybe they still have some money outstanding, but I think that roster overall is pretty well set.
Okay. Are there any, you mentioned a few of the rookie injuries. Are there any veteran injuries that we need to keep an eye on? Some guys who may not be available either early in camp or until later in camp, or maybe even into the season?
Yeah, no, and Jaquan Brisker's cleared, but it'll be very interesting to just to see how much they play him in the preseason, and if he does come up and make some big hit, how he comes out of it. That'll be interesting. And the other thing to look at is like Colston Loveland hasn't been on the field either. So how will he be able to be full functional in training camp? And then ultimately, of course, ready to play week 1. So those are a couple things to pay attention to.
Okay. Were there any of you heard anything at all from the UDFAs? The only player that sticks out to me that I liked, that I think would be a nice sleeper UDFA, is Major Burns. But I don't know. Have you heard anything at all about any of these guys? Did they give any of these guys big money that shows that they're excited about one over the other?
I haven't heard anything about big money. I do think that the rookie out of TCU, 5'11" wide receiver, J.P. Richardson, has a chance at bare minimum to be a training camp darling. He's looked good running routes, made some nice catches in rookie mini camp and then throughout OTAs. So I think he's in the mix, at least for somebody that could pop up and be talked about.
And overall, how's the rest of the staff look so far? Because that's the one thing that we talk about is that the Bears, what they have over other teams, which is what I think does make them exciting, is they've got really as good as a combination of offensive guy, defensive guy. You could say what you want about Dennis Allen as a head coach, but he sure does know how to coach defense.
Yeah, the staff just feels pretty damn solid here. I mean, Ben has been impressive on the field. He's been impressive dealing with the media. Seems like he's connecting with the roster, Caleb included, maybe most importantly. Dennis seems like a no-nonsense guy too. And Bears players are talking about they just love the style as far as the aggressive defense. And Jalen Johnson, for one, is super excited that he's going to get to trail and, take on the top wide receivers and, follow Justin Jefferson around, which he's wanted to do, and I think he's going to get that opportunity this year. Declan Doyle, 28 years old, offensive coordinator, getting a lot of props for his intelligence and just being like the perfect right-hand man for Ben Johnson. Richard Hightower is a holdover as a special teams coach that just has garnered a lot of respect over the years. So that's impressive. And the other guy that's not listed in front of us right now, but Eric Bieniemy as the running backs coach, he is as spirited as they come in practice. It's super fun to watch him scream at these guys, and just his energy that he brings every day. And everybody knows about EB as far as the long time potential head coaching candidate who never got his opportunity. But offensive coordinator forever. And now, so you're getting a guy like doing a job that he's seemingly overqualified for, and from what I can tell, he seems all in on it, Greg. So this just the coaching staff has some chops on it that it hasn't had in prior years.
Before I let you go, how's the is special teams going to be interesting at all regarding these jobs? Does everybody seem to have their job? Duvernay, was he signed? I'm assuming he was to take over as their number one kick returner.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like I've seen Roman Dunze back there catching punts, and would they use Luther Burden in that role? So that feels also like kind of a no depth chart position, which maybe they'll see how it looks in training. Although Duvernay is obviously the significant favorite there, but I do wonder how creative they'll get. And Torrey Taylor's going to punt the football, and Cairo Santos is going to kick. So I think that's pretty well set overall.
Excellent. Mark, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to talking to you in a couple of months when the pads come on and the hitting really starts, and then the coaches really start yelling. That'll be a lot of fun to go to those practices, I'm sure, this summer for you guys. So it should be a real fun year to cover the Bears. I'm sure you must be really looking forward to it.
I am, and we're entering the dead period right now, but we'll still be doing shows 5 days a week, CHGO Bears, so check that out. And training camp will be here before we know it. So I would think it will be super exciting as we get ready for 2025, as always.
And I'll have a link in the description so you can check Mark out at whether it's the website, whether it's his X account, anywhere to find Mark on social media. We'll have those links in the description of this video. And again, Mark, looking forward to talking to you in a few months.
Greg, we'll see you then. I appreciate it.
Thank you.